guys picked them, and now I'm going to rank them. Stay tuned for my top 5 comics of the week. Hey comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, and fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to bring you my top 5 comic books of the week, and this list is generated based off of you, the fans that were watching my comic book haul live. You guys picked which books you wanted me to review, and based off of those books, that's how they're going to be ranked. Now, I'm going to give you a top 5. I will also give you an honorable mention and a least favorite pick. That's right, fans. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that all-important notification button so you don't miss any content from me. And just to let you fans know, before we get started, there will be spoilers in this discussion with these comic books. So if you haven't read your comics yet, please read them and then come back and see this countdown. So with that being said, fans, let's get started with my worst pick of the week. That's right, and my worst pick of the week goes to none other than, you're probably not surprised with this one, Batman issue 67. You guys picked it. You wanted me to read Batman this week and review it, and this is where it fell. This is a silent issue. There are a few words in this book, but it takes you probably about 2 minutes to go through it. I looked through it a couple of times. I think there's a lot of great visuals in this book. It's kind of a cool chase where Batman is chasing down a villain all the way from the top of a building and goes all the way down to the sewers of Gotham. Visually, it's beautiful. Story progression, that's the problem. There is no story progression when it comes to this whole Nightmare series. What's the point of this one? There's really not much anything here except Batman chasing a villain down a building. Sure, it's cool to look at, but we've been on a stall now for the past 5 issues here. Let's move forward with the story here. Come on, Tom King. I want to see something more besides some nightmares in Batman's head. This is so frustrating at this point. It just adds nothing to the Batman story whatsoever. It's just filler at its finest because we don't even get dialogue in this story. This was very disappointing. Like I said, visuals are good, but in the long run, this is sad in my opinion at this point. So definitely my worst pick of the week. All right. So now we go on to the book that gets the honorable mention this week, okay? And that one goes to Avengers No Road Home, issue 6. You guys wanted me to talk about this one because it focuses on the first issue of Conan being in the series, okay? And so in this issue, we get to see really the whole issue is about Conan and Scarlet Witch together. There's very little in this oversized issue, which is $4.99, that has to do with the Nightmare Realm, where Hulk and Rocket Raccoon and Hawkeye are in. And you get to see very little of Nyx and her kids in this story as well, which I feel brings the issue down. So even though this is in the honorable mention list and this overall series has been good, I feel like this has kind of been somewhat of, I want to say, I guess a filler in a way, because it doesn't really have to do with the main story, just has to do with Conan and Scarlet Witch interaction. And I felt that it was way overdone in my opinion. There was way too much dialogue. The story felt dragged out to me. It didn't need to be this long. We could have had Conan get sucked back in with Scarlet Witch maybe halfway through this issue and have her have a battle with Nyx or whatever the case may be. But again, you just see this long drawn out journey with Scarlet Witch and Conan trying to retrieve a shard. That's all it is. You get teased of a possible romance between the two characters. You get to see them go on this, again, the entire journey with each other. And the only thing that you get out of this from the other story is that Hulk winds up breaking one of those black shards, and obviously he wants nights all the time because he is the immortal Hulk, and that's how he thrives at nighttime. It's not a horrible story. It had its moments. It had cool panels at times, you know, but again, out of all the issues that I've read so far, if you're not a Conan fan, you're going to be disappointed with this. And I'm not a huge Conan fan. I'm really not. I don't find the character all that interesting. And if it just focuses on him and one other character, it's just going to feel like a Conan book to you. So, yeah, it's okay. But again, it's the weakest issue of the series so far for me. Alright. So moving on now, we're going to go on to my number 5. And my number 5 book this week goes to Spider-Man City at War, issue 1, taking place in the Gamerverse world. That's right, guys. You guys wanted me to check out this one as well. And then when it comes to the number 1s, I'm definitely going to talk about these number 1s. Dennis Hopeless is the writer. I love Dennis Hopeless as a writer. He's written so many great series. He wrote the Spider-Woman series. He wrote the Avengers Arena series. He's written a lot of great stuff. The artwork is done by Michelle Bandini, and the artwork is really nice here. I love the characters' expressions. The coloring is really good. The fight scenes are really nice in this issue as well. And so we get introduced to this world of Spider-Man. Obviously, it takes place based off of the game, but it's 8 years into the future, okay? You get to see Mary Jane as she works for the Bugle. We get to see Kingpin. He gets captured. He gets thrown in jail. This is obviously after he was mayor, and I think Norman Osborn now is the mayor as well. We get to see, what's it called? Dr. Octopus in this world. Trying to remember. He's a good guy, and he's working with Peter in here also. So there's a lot of different elements in this book, but the characters are all somewhat familiar, right? You get to see Otto Octavius help Peter as he designs a better suit for him, which I thought was which is cool as well. And yeah, it's a good book. I like it. It's really more of a setup than anything, because we get to see what's his name, Mr. Negative. I think that's his name, right? The guy that Dan Slott created, and his goons go after this specific file called the Devil's Breath. And I'm not a huge fan of Mr. Negative or whatever the case may be, so that's why this is lower on the list. But again, it's more of a setup. It's kind of cool. You get to see, again, Peter make a new suit with the help of Otto Octavius. You get to see where all our characters stand in this world and whatnot. So I think this can be a series that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right. So number 4 this week, it goes to Guardians of the Galaxy issue 3. This is a cool book because basically we have the new Guardians. They're taking charge now. Peter Quill's no longer in charge because he can't deal with the loss of Gamora and how Gamora is the one that basically killed him. He can't get that out of his head. You know, it's the woman he loves, and it's just, she killed him, and it's like, I can't get over it, and he wants kind of like nothing to do with her. Okay, and in the beginning of this book, we wind up seeing Thanos' brother sitting there talking to a hologram of Thanos, trying to, you know, make reasoning of everything that's going on because they're trying to find this consciousness of Thanos before Thanos rises again. And his brother sits there and he goes, you know, what have I become? Have I become you? Because I'm trying to create this balance in the universe. And it just sickens him, you know, to think of that. And he says that he was once an Avenger and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. But the main part of the issue that I liked was takes place in a negative zone, and Annihilus is in this particular part, and the Black Order and Hela wind up getting information that Thanos' head is in the negative zone. So you get to see this cool battle between Annihilus and Hela, and we wind up seeing that the Black Order retrieves Thanos' head. The artwork in this book is just phenomenal. I love it, and it's so appealing. It really pops, and the characters are really awesome in here as well. You also get to see what is it, like this Dark Order or whatever they are, or the Dark Guardians, that's what they call themselves, trying to go after Richard Rider as well. He takes off. They're trying to get information from him. And so, again, it made for a pretty fun issue. I don't think really much progressed the story, but nevertheless, I thought it was a good read. I feel for Peter Quill, as he really doesn't want anything to do with this mission of going after Gamora, because she's going after Rocket, I guess. And the order of rank right now is Groot is in charge and Beta Ray Bill is like his co-captain. So it makes for a fun read, you know. And again, I feel for Peter Quill here. I think this is going to be a good series. I liked it a lot. And yeah, so we'll see where that one goes. So, yep, that was number 4. All right. So, number 3 this week goes to Spider-Man Life Story Issue 1. Takes place in the 60s. This one is written by Chip Zdarsky, and the artwork is done by one of my favorites, Mark Bagley. So when you read this book, if you're a Bagley fan, you're going to be attracted to the art itself. The way he draws Peter, the way he draws Norman Osborn in this issue is absolutely phenomenal. I think it's a fun read. It really draws you into how the 60s were, because when you read this book, there is so much dialogue in here on, like, oh, I gotta get myself some scratch, or I gotta get myself some bread. Peter Parker takes pictures of Spider-Man. He gets like $20 for his paycheck, and it's just funny how Chip Zdarsky really captures the time of the 60s on how Peter Parker was, and all the characters were in here. It was great to see Peter and Gwen interact in the issue as well. But there was this one thing that drew the issue down for me a bit. It had to do with the whole war situation with Peter, because he feels like with great power comes great responsibility, and he sees other heroes going to the war and helping out in Vietnam, and then yet he's undecisive if he should go or not. He makes this run-in with Captain America, and Captain America sits there and says, you know, you're doing a great job here. You know, great power, great responsibility doesn't mean you have to be everywhere. So that was kind of a cool message, but then at the end we get thrown with this little twist with Captain America, and I just felt like that part of the story kind of drew it away from me. If it just did not have to deal with Captain America and just Flash going to the war like the issue was about, that would have been, I thought, just a much better story. But yeah, we get obviously you get the finding out of who obviously Peter is Spider-Man to Norman Osborn. They have this battle with each other, and you also get a revelation that Gwen Stacy finds out that Peter is Spider-Man as well. There's great emotional moments in this book. I really, really enjoyed it. This probably would have been my #1 book, again, if it didn't have Captain America in it towards the end. I just didn't like that part of the story, but the whole thing with Flash and Peter's relationship and Gwen Stacy and Peter's relationship, all great moments. Norman and Peter's relationship, really, really great stuff. Norman was just so menacing in this book, and you felt him as an evil presence right from the start. So good. This was a great book. If you guys are on the fence about picking this one up, I'd say pick it up. It's definitely worth the read, and I can't wait to see what happens in the 70s. All right. So moving forward now to my #2 book. And my #2 book of the week, it goes to Immortal Hulk issue 15. This book is bringing back the cast of the Hulk. Everyone that was once dead is now coming back alive again. Doc Samson makes his return in this issue. We find out that in the last issue, Betty Brant got shot in the head. Well, she's no longer dead on the floor. She walked away, and she walked away through a hole, or through she created a hole through a house, and it's a big hole. So you gotta assume that she is now the immortal Red She-Hulk, and we're yet to see her make her return as well. This book has a lot of recap in it on what happened to Samson. So if you have not read the Hulk, it's a Hulk in the past, it's a good catching up point to see what he's gone through and how he came back and whatnot. And then we get a current time of the Hulk battling Samson, and then they wind up working together, and Samson kind of giving him a therapy session on what's the thought process behind the current Hulk right now. And we get to see that this Hulk is quite like the devil, right? He wants the world to end, but he wants it to end because mankind is killing it, not because he wants to kill it just for fun. So that was kind of a cool revelation there as well. And then by the time you get to the end of the issue, we go back to another gravesite, and we wind up seeing that Rick Jones is, yes, he is alive. And again, the whole supporting cast for the Hulk is coming back. And again, this is going to add a lot more depth to the series. What their role is going to be going forward, it's still unclear, but they're obviously going to have a larger role in this series going forward. So I'm very much looking forward to this. This is a great book, a great series. I know some people don't get why the Hulk is like this. Why does he need to be written like this, where he kills or he's like a devil? It's just another version of Hulk, another iteration of him. And I like it, and I'm enjoying the run. Alright, so last but not least, my #1 comic of the week goes to Criminal issue 3. Once again, this is back-to-back times this book has come out where it has made my #1, because it has to do with part 2 about this illustrator that wants his artwork back. And so we get to see in this issue them trying to break into this guy's house and trying to get his artwork back, which I thought was really cool. And if you read issue 1, we find out that Ricky Lawless, the guy that you were introduced to in issue 1, is tied into this book as he helps them commit that crime on trying to get that original artwork back. I thought it was so fun. But through the narration in this book, you get the understanding of why comic books exist. So it tells you that message in this book on why people read comic books, right? For instance, we have one of the main character here, the assistant. He sits there and he goes, you know, when I was a kid, people made me feel anxious. I felt out of place. I didn't feel right. But comics took me into a place where I could forget all that and go into this completely different world. And you know what? That's what comics should do for a reader. They should take you to a different place. They should bring you somewhere else. Forget about everyday's, you know, stressful situations and things like that. And this issue explained that, obviously through a story and through this, you know, through this person's narration, but it was so well done. And we get to see the old man illustrator go up and accept the award, and he's so bitter that he winds up jacking the guy in charge in the face, and they wind up getting the police called. And it was such a great story at learning about Hal Crane's, you know, story on how he was this illustrator for 50 years and how the industry screwed him over. And what makes this so good, again, is that message about comics, right, on how it takes the reader away. But it just makes it for a fun read, because as a comic reader, you can relate to this because it has to do all about comics. And that's what's so crazy, and how bad the industry actually could be, and how this guy felt like he was cheated. It was so interesting. I loved it. There is a lot of dialogue in this book, so if you are sleepy or tired, you want to make sure you read this when you're wide awake, or make sure that this is the first book that you read. But honestly, when I read this, I got lost in this story. I loved the narration here. This was such a great book. Criminal is a phenomenal read. Now I'm very curious where issue 4 is going to go, on what's next for this story. And if you haven't read Criminal, I definitely suggest pick it up. This is a great story by Ed Brubaker. I love it, and the artwork was just as good. So that was my number 1 book, and that was my top 5 worst pick and honorable mention books as a week. Again, guys, thank you for your participation on picking out those books. If you want to pick out the books that I'm going to review, watch my haul, my comic book haul, every Wednesdays live. And once I get done showing my books, you guys will get to take and see if you get lucky enough to get that book, picked, So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was a good time. Thank you for taking the time to participate. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this top 5. Again, in the comments below, put down your top 5 comics of the week, top 3, top 1. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that notification button. And fans, until that next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye.